Good afternoon. I am Imani Daniels, and this is my Vulnerability Assessment Preso for Cyber 4220. For my vulnerability assessment, I had the opportunity of scanning Paoli Negron systems. In this presentation, I will go over all needed services, which include firewalls for both Linux and Windows, AppArmor, just for Linux, HTTP and HTTPS for both Linux and Windows, POP3 and POP3S only for Linux, SMTP and SMTPS on both Linux and Windows, IMAP for Linux, DNS for both Linux and Windows, database / PostgreSQL for Linux, and SSH for Linux. The first step for me in the vuln assessment was to scan my partner's servers to make sure that all of the services that were required were present. Below is my partner's Linux server using the Kali and map scan. As you can see, we have a filtered SMTP, a filtered HTTP, a filtered POP3, a filtered IMAP. We have open ports for PostgreSQL, POP3S, IMAPs, the open submission, and the HTTPS. We also have our domain and our SSH open. This means that my partner had all the required services in the corresponding ports for Linux. I then scanned for the Windows required services. They had the requirements for that server as well, which included the open domain, HTTPS secure, and SMTPS secure, as well as having no other ports open. They also had their Windows firewall enabled and working. After checking both Linux and Windows required services, I then checked the Linux firewall rules and made sure that IP tables were installed and running properly on the machine. As you can see, my partner has both incoming and outgoing rules to allow connections between the ports. My partner also has IP tables loaded and active. For the IP table rules, there were rules for HTTP, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, as well as POP3, IMAP, and SMTP for both incoming and outgoing traffic. I then checked to make sure that AppArmor was installed on the machine and working properly. Next, I then had to run my Nessus/Greenbone scans. After completing the scan for my partner's servers, it flagged two ports, port 446 TCP and 465 TCP. These ports were both located on the Windows IP. The vulnerability ranking for these two ports was ranked medium. This means it falls on a 4.9 through 6.9 on the vulnerability scale. Of the other 68 results, 66 were log results, which we aren't going to go into detail about. Starting with the first vulnerability, which is HTTPS, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, on port 443, was considered vulnerable because it utilized a SSL or TLS cipher that leaves a vulnerability within 64 block ciphers. A cipher suite consists of a set of instructions that enable secure network connections through TLS, SSL. Because of the vulnerability within this port, this leaves it susceptible to a Suite 32 attack. A Suite 32 attack is when cryptographic protocols like TLS or SSH, which is the secure shell, use block cipher algorithms to encrypt data between clients and servers. The cipher suite that was vulnerable was the TLS RSA with 3 DES, EDE, CBC, SHA. This cipher suite applies DES symmetric key block 3 times to every block. This includes the SHA hash algorithm on the transport layer security. Any service that is accepting vulnerable SSL or TLS via the HTTPS port can be affected. The way to fix this vulnerability includes mitigation of the service so that it's configured to not allow specific cipher suites such as TLS RSA with 3 DES, EDE, CBC, SHA. For Windows, you can use PowerShell to disable this cipher suite. To do so, you would open Windows PowerShell and type the command disable -TLS cipher suite -name and then type in TLS _RSA _ with 3 DES _EDE CBC _SHA. This command disables the cipher suite with this name. It also removes the cipher suite from the list of TLS protocol cipher suites. For the SMTPS, or Simple Mail Text Protocol Secure, port that was flagged on 465 TCP, the vulnerability is the same. For all the other services that were configured, none of them raised a vulnerability issue. This means that the other 66 services are secure. There were no other services or services that weren't needed in the scan. Vulnerability ranking. For the patch of version 2.0 of Greenbone, the scale 1 through 10 has been broken down into 3 severity levels. These levels are low, which scales from 0 to 3.9, medium, which scales from 4.9 to 6.9, and high, which scales from 7.0 to 10. However, in version 3.0, there are 5 levels: none, which is 0.0, low, which is 0.1 through 3.9, medium, which is 4.0 through 6.9, high, which is 7.0 through 8.9, and critical, which is 9.0 through 10. The CVSS, or the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, is used to assess how important a vulnerability is. The latest version is version 3.1. It is calculated using metrics that include base score, temporal score, and environmental score. Base score encompasses the basics of the vulnerability that come separate to time in the current IT environment. How easily is this vulnerability utilized or exploited? The temporal score is rated on things that can change over time but stay the same in a different information technology environment. A patch deployment would lower this score. Lastly, the environmental score is based on situations that apply to the specific IT environment. This includes how well an organization can react to the vulnerability or what status this vulnerability has within the IT structure. And then these are my references. Thank you.